Here's today's First Word Daily Devotion.
It's August the 3rd, and we turn our attention today to our reading in Ezra. We open the book, and we are in Ezra, chapter 1 and 2, as well as in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And 1 Corinthians 11 is going to take a little bit of work for us as we read that passage, but let's start in Ezra 1 through 2. Remember what we are learning as we're reading the Bible. I introduced to you a few times now, the order of the Hebrew Bible is different than the order of our English Bible. And there are many different orderings of the Bible, but I'm speaking specifically according to the tripartite ordering. And I don't want to get too technical here, but even in that tripartite ordering of the TNK or the Torah, Nebaim, Ketuvim, the law, the prophets, and the writings, there's sometimes even an internal ordering that's different depending on which version of the canon you get. But it's important for us to understand that the ordering of the Bible matters, and the ordering of the Bible tells us a theological story. And so, for example, we had the end of Chronicles yesterday. Our English ordering follows a more historical referent. Well, the Bible's not just telling us history. There's a certain Bible that I really don't prefer, at least the ordering of it. That's the chronology Bible, because that takes the portions of the Bible and takes it out of order and tries to put things in chronology. Well, we don't want a chronological telling, because this is not just a history lesson for us. As we read the stories of kings, as we read the story of the chronicler, there is a theological ordering to the Bible. And that's important because it shows us the intention that God wants us to know. He's not just telling us facts of history. He's tuning our hearts to sing His praise as He tells, listen, His story. And so, for example, we read yesterday the close of the Hebrew Bible in Chronicles. And we saw at the close, we saw people that we've not been familiar with. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah. Well, we don't know who Jeremiah is. We've not yet read him in the text. Well, we would have read him if Chronicles was the last book. So, for example, we have Ezra picking up right after Chronicles. And this is important because in the historical reading, well, of course, Ezra comes after Chronicles. Well, but think about the difference that it makes to read Ezra before Chronicles. The chronicler leaves that message of Cyrus as not yet fulfilled, whereas Ezra leaves things already fulfilled. Now, this is important as we're living our Christian life. This is important as we're reading the Bible. There is this already not yet tension. Jesus has come, and He is coming. We are saved, and we are being saved. All of those things matter. There is a tension within our lives made by the realities of God that we have to live with and in. And so it's important as we're reading the Bible to remember these things. So Ezra comes, but I want you to remember the Hebrew ordering of the Torah, the law, the Nebaim, the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the writings, the law, the prophets, and the writings. Now, you can read Ezra, and Ezra, we're going to go through this story, and this is important for us. It's talking about the clans that are returning and their proper place in the land. Now, that's important, and we'll let you read that, and it'll become important a little later. But let's go to our New Testament reading. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 11, 2 through 34. Now, again, let's be students of the Bible. Let's not take a passage out and try to twist it to our own imagination. Let's instead follow the line of argumentation. What has Paul been talking about up until this point? Well, he's been talking about marital relations between a man and a woman. Now, there's a particular phrase in here that scholars disagree over, and that Greek word there is kephale, and that is head. Now, does head mean authority, or does head mean source? And depending on how you read this text, you'll come up with one or two different readings. But remember, regardless of how you read the text, you cannot introduce into the text a context that's not from the text. In other words, you can't lift the text out as if the only thing Paul says is 1 Corinthians 11. Instead, he says a lot more. Now I commend you because you remember me in everything, maintain the traditions even as I delivered them to you. But I want you to understand, verse 3, that the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. Now, there's an important verse for us to consider. Let's take the theological reading for just a moment. By inference, Paul is making an inference to our marital relationships, how we are to respond together as a husband and wife complement one another. There is this headship, and that headship means that in a functional marital relationship, the man is to take the lead as he is following Jesus Christ. And so we have to understand what we mean when we say following Jesus Christ, because it says that Christ, or the head of Christ, is God. Remember what we believe when we say Jesus Christ. We believe in the Trinity. We believe that our God is Father, Spirit, and Son. We don't believe that the Father is partly God, that the Son is partly God, that the Spirit is partly God. We believe that all three members of the Trinity are what it means to be God. The Father is fully God, the Son is fully God, and the Spirit is fully God. And so we serve a God who is Trinity. He is Father. And just by speaking that way, it doesn't make sense for us to call him Father unless he has a Son. And so it's very important for us to think through how we know God. And remember, the only way that we know God is through the Son, Jesus Christ. The only way we know the Father is through the Son. And so there is this relationship that we then get to participate in, listen to the language, by inference every time we get married and live happily ever after, which is exactly what this passage is calling for. It's calling for us to remember worship even in our marriage. And it's so foundational that right after we talk about man and woman together in perfect harmony, Paul gives us instructions concerning the Lord's Supper. There is to be this harmonious familial relationship that is to bleed over into the life of the church, where the man and the woman complement one another in such a way that their relating to one another in harmony and love is the standard by which we all relate to one another when we all come together. But our relationship with one another begins first in the home. Now, on that note, hope that's not too confusing. On that note, let's turn to Psalm 30, and we'll read verses 4 and 5, 11 and 12, and then we'll continue our reading in August 4th tomorrow. Now, Psalm 30. Sing praise to the Lord, O you his saints. Give thanks to his holy name, for his anger is but for a moment. His favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Verse 11. You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness, that my glory may sing your praise and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. And we practice giving thanks to him forever as we unite ourselves, male and female, as we look forward to what our marriage is intended to portray. Our marriage is intended to portray the forever that we'll have with God through Jesus Christ. Remember this particular way of speech that Jesus has granted all of those who follow him.